Buying and selling, aka fix and flip properties. Now I'm so keen to get onto this type of property investment, but at the end of the day I'm not doing it because I just ain't got that kind of money just yet. So what I am focusing on is, hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be talking more property because I know how much you guys love it, and so do I. So in particular today I'm going to be talking to you guys about different property investment techniques. So on this channel I generally allude a lot to the buy to let investment type, and that's just because that's the type that I'm currently focused on, because that's what currently fits my budget and the capital that I have available to me. I also love the idea of buy to let investment just because you have two sort of streams of income coming from that, in a sense that not only do you get the rental income each month from the tenants that you have in your property, but also from the appreciation in value. So at the point that you do go on to sell the property, you also get some profit from there too. So that's why I love the idea of investing in property and investing in buy to let in particular. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the other techniques that you can implement if you want to invest in property. So I'm just going to go straight ahead and start with buy to let, since I'm already on that topic. So as I said earlier, you sort of have two streams of income from that type of investment property. As well as that, I also find that buy to lets are a great way of starting your investment portfolio if you don't have much capital available to you and you're just starting out. This is because generally I feel like they're the cheapest way to get into the property market, and I say this because all you really need is 25% to start off. And I know that 25% may initially sound like a lot to get started with, but honestly, it's not that much. And it all depends on you finding the right location, something that will be suitable to your budget. So if you know that you currently live in London and you want to start investing in property, getting tenants in there, look outside of London. I'm not saying go all the way out to like Manchester or anything, but there are other areas just outside of the local vicinity that you may be able to afford and will help you get onto the property ladder a lot easier. That's what I did, and I'm sure you guys know it by now. Also, it may be self-explanatory, but if you are doing a buy-to-let investment, you need to make sure that the rent that you're collecting from your tenants is going to be a lot more than the mortgage itself. So you need to make sure that the rent collected will cover mortgage payments, any sort of maintenance or work that you may need to carry out on the property from month to month, any insurance that you will have in place, and finally, you need to ensure that there's going to be enough left for you to pocket, because at the end of the day, this is your investment. The benefits of having this property is the fact that you get some rental income from it monthly that you can pocket and keep for yourself. This is why it's so important that when you are looking for your buy-to-let investment property, you need to make sure it's in a good area, in a place whereby you're going to get a good return on investment. That is that the property that you buy will give you a good rental income yield, and also at the point that you're going to sell it, it's probably going to appreciate in value quite a fair bit, and you're going to get some good money out of that too when it increases in value. So that's the first type and probably most common type of investment technique. The second is buying and flipping. This is essentially when you buy and almost sell immediately straight away. Now, I love this whole idea of buying and flipping, and to be quite honest, this is definitely something that I'm going to get involved in my property portfolio. Now, the reason why this is such a good investment type is because essentially you buy a property for really low, really cheap at a discounted price, and then you do it up and you sell it on for much more. So for example, you may see a property going for like, let's say £80,000. Let's say you manage to get it for about £65,000 after negotiations with the seller, right? And let's say the work required now to do up the property is about 25 grand. So altogether that's costing you about 90 grand for you to buy the property and do it up. Now, the real return on investment and where you really see that profit is whereby when you go in to sell the property and maybe you're able to sell it for about 200 or even 150. Now, of course, in order to be able to benefit from this like potential gain, you need to ensure that the area that you're invested in is going to give you a good return. So that means that when carrying out your research and looking at the area that you want to buy in, you need to look at other similar properties in the area. How much are they selling for? If you can see that they're selling for substantially more than the property that you're about to buy, then that's a good investment, because you know that it may not necessarily take you that much to do it up. As I mentioned in my example, let's say 20 grand it takes you to do up the property, but if you're able to gain an additional 50 to 100k on top of it at the point of doing it up and selling it, that is definitely worthwhile and is a good thing to get involved in, especially where you're going to see this return on investment in maybe 2 to 3 months. Yes, 2 to 3 months, in the sense that if you've got good contractors around you, a good team helping you manage a project, you'll be able to buy a property, do it up, and go on to sell it in potentially 3 months or about that. So that's why I think this is definitely a worthwhile investment type to get involved in. Now, the only downside to this type of investment property is the fact that you need to have a lot more capital available to you, because typically you don't get these buy to flip properties on mortgages. You need to have your own capital. Now, a way around this is that if you already have another property, you may be able to take out some equity out of that property, but obviously this is all down to how much you're able to take out of the existing property that you do have. So it'd be great if you're able to take out anything from 65 to 70k out of a current property that you you have in order to use towards buying that new property that you've seen. But if not, you may have to look into some other ways to get your hands on this money to invest in that house. Now, this is where it gets a little interesting. You may have heard people talking about techniques where you can buy properties without essentially having any money. Crazy, right? Buying houses without having any of your own money. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, if that's the case, why aren't we all doing this? Now, I'm going to talk through these briefly with you and explain why they are good ways to, get your hands on some property, but at the same time, it's not always necessarily that easy. And it's probably why I'm not doing it myself just yet. Now, the first way that you can get your hands on property without necessarily having your own money available to put down is a lease option agreement, which is whereby you sort of agree to buy a property, but later, not now, because obviously you don't have that money just yet. So you essentially buy today, but pay later. This is something that you have to do some research into. It's not everybody that's going to offer this to you, and therefore you need to go out there, do some research, find some people that you'll be able to work with to get this done and get an agreement in place. Legal work is so important for this. The second type of way that you can fund this type of investment, this buying and flipping investment, is via a joint venture. So it's sort of self-explanatory. This is where two people may come together and you form a partnership. Now, you both put down 50%, so it's a 50-50 thing. Now, so in putting down 50% each, this does not necessarily mean that you both have to put up 50% of the capital that you need. So if your property that you're buying is £100,000, this doesn't mean that you both have to bring £50,000 to the table. One person can be the financer and the other person can be the one with all the knowledge. So you're the one that finds the good deals and brings them to the table, or you have all the property knowledge, or you're even the person with the time and you're the one that is able to dedicate time to making sure that this whole project of buying the property, doing it up and then going on to sell is managed well. So essentially you're the one that is able to project manage this thing properly and make sure that it goes through successfully. The third type is other people's money. So this is essentially going out and getting a loan or borrowing from people that you know, obviously with the guarantee that you're going to give them something in return when you do go on to sell this property. So essentially you're going to give them a cut when you make some profit from selling this house. So I'll now sort of whiz through those three types very quickly, but that's just because this video is more focused on the different types of property investment techniques. So going back to that, firstly, we covered buy-to-let investment types, which is what I'm currently doing. 2, we've covered buying and flipping. And third and finally is the idea of buying to rent out a serviced accommodation. Now, this is a huge trend right now. And essentially what this is that you have a property which you let out or rent to guests on places like Airbnb, bookings.com, you get what I mean. Now, there's huge potential in these types of investments because when you rent out to guests on like Airbnb, you're able to get a lot more per night than you would do if you're just renting it out to tenants that you have in your house or on an AST agreement. This is why a lot of people tend to put their properties out on Airbnb or places like that, because you can make real serious money in like half the time. So you don't need to fill up your property for the 20 or so days in a month. You can literally fill up the property for 10 days and you already make your money. You're covering your mortgage and you're getting something to pocket away for yourself. Now, it all sounds well and good, but there are some disadvantages. And those include the fact that there are now some new regulations in place whereby you may not be able to rent out your property on somewhere like Airbnb for more than 90 days in a year. So you need to make sure that if you do decide to go on to do this type of property investment, you need to make sure that you'll be able to make the money that you need to cover all your expenses for the property within those 90 days. Otherwise, this may not be for you. Another disadvantage of this type of property investment is the fact that not many lenders will allow you to do this. Essentially, you can't just rely on having a standard buy-to-let or even residential mortgage to cover you for this, alright? You're going to need to get an agreement or consent from your lender before you go on to rent out your property as serviced accommodation. So that's it from me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do give it a thumbs up if you have. Please do let me know down in the comments if you're aware of any other property investment types or different techniques that you can use. I'd really love to know. I always want to improve on my knowledge as well and know ways I can do things more efficiently and also more budget friendly, of course. So as always, if there are any other topics you'd like me to cover, any questions that you'd like answered, please do let me know and I'll go about making such videos for you in future. Thanks for watching. Bye.